Trump's big bill passes. New Yorkers vote for dirty commie in the Democratic primary. NATO 5% plan. How about helping Ukraine? This is Dr. David D. Shine for Saving America with my own take on key stories from this past week focused on politics and business. And it's been a week packed with action from start to finish. And hey, we'll start with a special note here because this is number 52 of Week in Review. So we've completed a year of this special format that we started, and it's been quite a year, lots of stuff going on, and we appreciate every single one of you who listen to all or a part of each episode. The so-called Big Beautiful Bill is passed by the House. The Senate needed the help of VP Vance to make it 51-50. In the House, it was 218-214, with only 2 GOP voting against it. I am more in the camp with Elon Musk that this is a disgusting abomination. The problem is that this 940-page mess had to pass to keep in effect tax cuts from the Trump's first administration. I support keeping the tax cuts. Much in the bill is still pork. While the Dems shout that Medicaid is being cut and that will hurt millions, that is far from the truth. There are too few cuts in spending while giving out bribes for future voters like candy. This no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security payments. Why would we do this at a time of daunting federal deficit is beyond me. So the idiots known as the Dems cast not a single vote for the bill. That includes Fetterman from Pennsylvania. This gives the GOP tremendous talking points for them over the Dems in the 2026 election. The ultimate outcome, of course, remains to be seen. New Yorkers vote for dirty commie in the Dem primary. For some reason, New York City, home to the New York Stock Exchange and great wealth, along with Broadway, has become home to a collection of wackos and commies. Not sure how these factions came together. The latest in the saga of the decline of New York was a win in the New York City Democrat primary by Zohran Mamdani, about 100,000 votes over former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. This could be the end of the road for Cuomo, who in my opinion has so much baggage that I'm not sure why he bothered. The current mayor, Eric Adams, decided to become an independent, so he was not in this primary. The GOP candidate is unlikely to have a chance. So the focus has been on Mamdani, who appears to be dumber than AOC, who is one of the few in politics who have endorsed this guy, other than, of course, Senator Bernie the Fraud from Vermont. The commie diarrhea flowing out of his mouth makes no sense. There is no mayor in any city with the authority to implement the crazed changes that he claims to want. Free supermarkets, no police, free buses, protect illegals from deportation, no death penalty, and taxing white areas more than other areas of the city. Hey, I grew up during the Cold War. We never said commie without the word dirty in front of it. This dirty commie is off by about 100 years. He might have been able to sell this nonsense back then during the Great Depression, but not now. While the media is having a field day with this, I do not expect it to last through the election. I believe that the slopstream media seems to be making him a winner of the mayor's seat months from the election simply to get headlines. Adams, if he plays his cards right, should continue to be the mayor. After all, the USSR, Venezuela, North Korea, and even the recent problems in China underscore the historic failures of communism. This label of democratic socialist that Mamdani uses is a simple hoax with the willing help of the slopstream media. I'm not fooled, and I do not believe if you're listening to this webcast, you are not fooled either. NATO 5% plan, helping out Ukraine. Trump returned from the NATO summit reportedly with the deal that every member country will put 5% of their GNP into defense, although I hear Spain has not agreed to that number yet. Further, it is unclear what will be considered military spending and the length of time allowed to get to that 5% level. In any event, Trump claims a big victory here, and it's an apparent victory at some level. Flipping it a bit, the Europeans were more easily persuaded due to the anti-civilization attacks on the people of Ukraine by that failed murdering terrorist Putin. However, now is the time for them to step up their efforts to fully support Ukraine in surviving this unconscionable devastation by Putin. At the same time, I'm concerned to hear that America will pull back its support of Ukraine. I'm a hardcore anti-communist and Putin must be dealt with harshly. That is not happening yet. Worse, the reason for the pullback by the United States at a critical time is because our own military stockpiles are running low. As we are well into the second Cold War, we need to be at our peak, not our low. This is factually what led to both World War I and World War II. America cannot let its guard down. We must make the best armaments in the world and in sufficient quantities to cover the USA and sell our extra to our allies. As I have recommended before, we need to focus on what works today, not what worked yesterday. We must control space, the underseas world, and provide missile defense. Russia and Ukraine are combining the old and the new. The new approach is winning out as the ground forces sit stalled. I believe we can win the new Cold War for far less than we now spend on the military if we spend it intelligently. The failure of DOGE so far was the lack of understanding about what to cut and where the future investments need to go. And this is the failure of both political parties, not one party or the other. Iran backs out of peace talks. The word is that the terrorist in charge, Khomeini, actually had the chutzpah to claim that Iran won the recent 12-day war. We all know that ain't true. Now that Israeli and U.S. planes have stopped dropping targeted bombs on Iran, this coward has crawled out of a hole somewhere. While the ceasefire is holding, they now claim they don't need to negotiate a longer-term peace deal. Good news on that is that Trump said he would stop considering reducing sanctions on Iran. While there's some disagreement about the level of destruction, Iran did hold funerals for 60 nuclear scientists and military commanders who were killed in the 12-day war. I have to believe that this alone sets back both nuclear bomb development and the ability of the terrorist rulers to maintain control of the country. I would suggest extensive support be given to the network within Iran to replace the terrorists with a provisional government. And let's try not to replicate Afghanistan or Iraq. Trial set for March, an assassination plot against Trump. March 9, 2026 is the date for the trial of 3 terrorists who are accused of planning to kill President Trump and an Iranian dissident named Marish Alvunizad. However, the key guy, Farhad Sakiri, an Afghan-born piece of garbage, is hiding in Tehran, and I doubt they will have him in custody for his trial. He spent time in prison in the U.S., reportedly assembled a team of other losers. 2 of his recruits are in custody. Carlisle Rivera, also known as Pop, and Jonathan Lodeholt. Both of them have New York addresses, and that's about all I could find out about them. This is a situation all Americans should be very concerned about. I lived through the Kennedy assassination, the very serious injuries Ronald Reagan and Brady experienced due to the attempted assassination. We all lived through the near miss on President Trump when he was campaigning in Pennsylvania last year. We do not need more death and destruction. FBI Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino recently disclosed that the FBI, under Chris Wray, hid evidence of a Chinese plot to interfere in the 2020 presidential election. Reportedly, the CCP created mass-produced fake U.S. driver's license, which would allow bad actors to submit fake mail-in ballots for Joe Biden to push the 2020 election to Biden. The original source was based on information that Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley got from whistleblowers and forwarded to the FBI. It was not properly investigated. Given the massive damage that Biden's administration did on the world stage, the reason for the support for him by the CCP, and for that matter, Putin, is obvious. The mechanism was that the CCP supposedly used data from hacking TikTok accounts to steal real persons' data to create the fake driver's licenses and then send them to CCP sympathizers and operatives in the United States. Sadly, over the last few years, the number of well-known brand names that have filed for bankruptcy, including the many that have gone completely out of business, is indeed concerning. This is in the face of a surging stock market and generally good employment news. The latest bankruptcies are retailer At Home USA, which filed for Chapter 11 in Texas, and one of the largest retail pharmacy chains, Rite Aid. It filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in New Jersey. This has become so common that I came across an article titled 10 Biggest U.S. Bankruptcies of 2025. But folks, we're only halfway through the year. Trump has called on Fed Chair Powell to lower the official lending rate, not looking likely so far. Housing has shifted from a seller's to a buyer's market. This is a reflection of economic uncertainty, but also those high mortgage rates. In the whiplash department, Trump announced he would cut off tariff and trade discussions with Canada. That only lasted 2 days, as Canada then announced it would remove the digital services tax it was charging U.S. companies. So those trade talks are back on. Trump then announced a tariff deal with Vietnam that will include a 20% tariff on their goods coming to the U.S. and reportedly no interference or tariffs on selling U.S. goods in Vietnam. Hey, we'll see how that goes. As a person who earned his undergraduate degree at the University of Pennsylvania, I was pleased to see that Penn came to its senses. It just announced that it will correct the awards grabbed by fake female swimmer Leah Thomas and restore them to the women who actually earned them. I quickly add that I am not opposed to persons who are transitioning or have transitioned. As a consultant to industry, I've helped protect employees going through transition. However, if a male has gone through puberty, there will never be a fair athletic competition with a biological female due to the natural differences between men and women. On the higher education front, we have whiplash there as well. The U.S. has resumed after cutting off student visas from overseas. The caveat is that the administration ordered social media screening of all potential visiting students. Reportedly, the review will be looking for any indications of hostility towards the citizens, culture, government institutions, or founding principles of the United States. This has a massive impact on colleges and universities in the U.S., as 1.1 million students attend school here from other countries. Speaking as a university professor, my school needs those students since they are generally full tuition students. With so much in the slopstream media showing ICE in bad light, it's important to feature the positive work of this agency. ICE rescued trafficked children. Even before demented Joe Biden wandered out of the White House, the media was beginning to leak reports of massive abuse of the open border, which led to as many as 300,000 children being trafficked. The feds and the locals have no clue where they are. This is inhumanity at its worst level. ICE, under the Trump administration, led by Kristi Noem, has embarked on finding these children and making sure they are not being abused. Recall that children in the care of the Biden HHS were released to anyone who showed up. In some cases, the same address was used for the destination of over 100 children. The obvious end results were sex trafficking and child labor allegations. This should never have happened in America. Reports are that Tom Homan has now been running DNA tests and found 1/3 of the families with these minor children are not actually their relatives. I'm glad that the current administration is dealing with this serious problem. I hope they'll speed up the investigations. Speaking as an American, I'm just sorry that this was even allowed to get to this level. This is Dr. David D. Shine. Thanks for joining me for this special edition of Saving America. Remember, a new Saving America show is aired on the Brushwood Media Network every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Listen on any of the 16 network stations, Apple or Google mobile app, Apple CarPlay, TuneIn, Smart Speaker, and all smart TVs. Find more information at the brushwoodmedianetwork.com. Please be sure to join us each week. We welcome and love your feedback from our growing audience.